It went. We're good. Yay.
Oh my good. Wait, can you hear me?
We made it.
Sorry, everyone. It's a bit delayed. And I'm on my iPad because I'm having technical difficulties with my laptop. So everything is backwards. That's a little odd. But hi, welcome everyone. How are you? I hope everything is going well. We have wonderful Margaret. Margaret is here because, why are we here, Margaret?
We're here because we have a readathon to read for. So it's May, and instead of June where it's busting out all over, May is for moderns. Do you know that song reference?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
can't wait to sing that at the next Author Tubers Host Karaoke. But no, today is for May of the Moderns. I've got several books going. My current reads, 2 or 3 are of the modern variety. So maybe we'll pick a book together to read because I'm like midway through all of them. So, or not all of them. I'm in different places on all of them. But what about you? What are you working on, or what are you reading for the readathon, or how is it going for you overall?
Reading has not been my strength this month. It hasn't been my strength this month, but it's been going, and I am working on grapes. Wow, that is.
Oh yeah,
Grapes of Wrath. So I am about 116 pages in, and it's going great so far. Just haven't had the time to pick it up. I have really enjoyed a lot about Steinbeck. I just haven't had a chance to continue on yet with this.
Did you see the review? So this is the first one that I read. And did you see where I compared it to Grapes of Wrath because of just like the relentless detailed misery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love relentless detailed misery.
Get in there. Good deal.
Good deal. Yeah. And I just, before I forget, I want to make sure everybody knows that Margaret, my wonderful co-host today, and of course the host of the May of Moderns, everything you need to know about her channel and the announcement video for the readathon is down in the description box. So please go show Margaret a lot of love. She's not only a wonderful booktuber, she's an incredible author tuber. And so please go check out her channel, check out everything about her, and join the readathon for what's left of the month, right?
Yeah, it's a good half month, right? Almost quarter.
Yeah, I'm gonna need it to finish
a third.
The other one I haven't even started is, look at this cover, The Good Master.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah,
is that Bulgakov or something? No, that's Dutch.
It's a kid's book.
Oh, okay.
It's actually Hungarian.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? Those folk outfits look like Dutch or Austrian. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And so this is a kid's book. Kate Sarity is the name of the author. 1929, I think, or something.
How did you find that?
So for my TBR game, I had to look up a very specific prompt, and it led me. I had a picture that I had to try to find a book for, and it was a pulley dog. And pulley dogs, those little, the ones that look like they have dreadlocks. Have you seen those dogs? They're like sheep dogs, but their fur is very dreadlock in texture. Okay. And they're originally from Hungary, and they're sheep herding dogs. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to look for a Hungarian book that has to do with farms. And this was a Hungarian author. She lived in the U.S. when she wrote this, but it's about these people in Hungary that are these kids that are going to this farm for the summer. Okay. And that's how it ended up happening.
Wow.
Super random.
Seems like a hard book to find. So yeah, good finding it for the prompts that you needed. I just Googled the pulley dogs that you mentioned. And yes, I understand the hair now.
Yeah. So it's, cool. And somebody actually wants, this is on hold at the library, so I got to get this done so I can turn it back in.
Wow. None of my modern, no, the only one, and I haven't gotten it, and I probably won't get it before the end of the month, is I Am the Cat, the Netsuke, Japanese, very famous classic. So I'm not going to get to read that. Oh, well. All the others, no one wanted.
I know. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to have this for a while. And turns out they're probably doing May of the Moderns. It's probably somebody local who's doing May of the Moderns, and they're like, oh, I better pick that one up.
Yeah. I'm supposed to do a buddy read of Evicted by Matthew Desmond with Elle Thinks. And I got it and I thought I'd have it for a while. And then I was waiting for her to get it, and then she got it, and I had to bring it back. So now she put a pause on her hold so that like I could maybe get it again, so we could like liaise at the same time. It's a yes, logistics.
Yep.
So I've got three choices. So tell me what you think I should start with.
Okay.
The Underdogs by Mariano Azuela is about the Mexican Revolution.
I like the cover a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah. And there are illustrations every so often that are just like black print. And they're pretty dark. So it's very short. I'm doing a buddy read with Greg of Another Bibliophile Reads. We're going to be on a live show Sunday. So I need to read this today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's that. There's this one I started, which is That Much Through, George Orwell's The Road to Wigan Pier, which is nonfiction about the north of England and how terrible life conditions were. He's just gone through coal mining, which is fascinating.
I read his, what is that one? It was also, semi-nonfiction. Yes, I love that
in London and Paris.
Yeah, I really liked that.
His style is so unique. It's like you can picture a guy in baggy woolen trousers flopping about, yelling about things articulately. Like I love reading Orwell. He's interesting.
Yeah, he really is.
The last one is Frank O'Connor, who's an Irish writer, mostly short stories. So this is full of his short stories and writing about Irish Civil War so far and childhood and, more Misery May. So if I was doing that readathon, it'd be perfect. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Pick a book, any book.
I'm gonna say Orwell because
Okay.
I really liked Down and Out. I just thought it was, and I know that it was fiction technically, but it was based on a lot of his experiences. So it was nonfiction in spirit.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed it.
Autofiction or creative nonfiction. There's all these words for like lying to people now. Massaging the truth, there's all sorts of words.
I mean, and it was descriptive enough in a not a pleasant sort of way that you're like, why would you want to make this up if it wasn't real,
Yeah, like the cockroaches and the sawdust and like It's interesting. The introduction person points out the fact that he had a real thing about smells. And so whenever he writes about like the smell of a place because he's easily revolted. And you're like, wow, this is making it very visceral.
It was, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I can see that. Like now that that was mentioned, I really can see that because especially in his in Down and Out, he talks about the kitchen conditions of some of the places he's at. And it's like, ooh.
Yep.
I don't even get grossed out that easily, but that's grossing me out.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. So Paige is checking up on us. How come it's not showing up? There it is.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't, Paige, we figured out last time why my camera wasn't working and then when we forgot. So I got to play around with it and figure out why it's not working. But I'm on my laptop and I'm trying to figure out.
iPad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, my app. Yeah,
iPad.
Thank you. My iPad. Because everything is kind of off, but we'll do it. Perfume by Patrick Susskind also did Scent-Based Disturbance.
I've never heard that phrase, scent-based disturbance. I mean, that's a very, very polite way of saying it stank.
Yeah.
I wrote that down.
Yeah, I like that too. I have heard of Perfume. Have you read that at all?
No, but I've heard of it, and it gets very like gritty, dark, doesn't it? Like, yeah, okay. That's
I was trying to figure out when that was written because I thought that might be a modern
Patrick Susskind. I thought that was later. That was like 80s.
87, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Look
never
at
mind.
that. Look at that.
Nice. Look at you go.
I got the right decade. Hey.
What else is everybody reading? Who's here with us? Come say hi to us. When I was on my last stream with Paige, actually, for some reason, StreamYard wasn't connecting to YouTube. So we had lots of comments, but we saw no comments in StreamYard whatsoever. So we're sitting there for like half an hour, like nobody's talking to us.
Oh,
but we could tell people were there.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was strange. So hopefully we
Okay.
don't have that happen to us. You've never had that happen.
No, I've never had comments stopped in the ether, but I've heard of other people having specific people whose comments don't go through on the dead desktop version and they have to look on their phone. And I'm like, I have no idea what is going on there. That's super bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, I usually have a YouTube tab open and I mute the site so that it doesn't get into a feedback loop of terrible sound. But then if anything does come through, I would be able to catch it by checking every so often. But yeah, that hasn't happened for me.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising. It's not for the readathon, but I'm reading Love in the Time of Call. Well, that does work, doesn't it?
I
thought it does. Maybe not.
don't know. I think
is
he
more modern.
expands
I mean,
beyond.
like more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more
that's what I mean.
recent. I think he
More
might be
recent,
more
thank you.
recent, but
Love in the Time. I read that recently, actually.
mm-hmm.
I actually preferred 100 Years of Solitude. Have you read any of Garcia Marquez's work?
I think I read Love in the Time of Cholera, and I wasn't a big fan either, and I haven't read the other one, so I don't know if I would prefer it. But I think I read it for a book club like over a decade ago, and couldn't say what I didn't like about it. But then when we talked, I was like, oh, it's the machismo. Like I'm just, it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Oh, it is. Yeah.
it's creating a scent disturbance out of the book pages. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and that's pretty typical of his writing. Love in the Time of Cholera, I thought was way more magical realism, and I feel like he pulled back on the magical realism. No,
Solitude.
100 Years of Solitude, yeah, was way more magical realism, and I loved that. And then we got Love in the Time of Cholera. I was super excited for it, and it wasn't as much, hardly at all, actually, magical realism. And so I was missing the part of his writing that I like so much from Solitude. So interesting, right? She says it was written in 1985.
Nice. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh, I tagged you in a tag today. And
I saw you to put up a tag. I got to check it out.
Yes. And there's a question about supernatural, and I chose a book with magical realism. Have you read Natasha Pulley?
No, but I've heard good things.
Yes. I read Bedlam Stacks. I think it's second in a read in any order kind of world. And it was really good. So I'd be very curious to see if you also like it. Because I was like, wow, this is unlike anything else I've read, and I really like it. Usually magical realism, I kind of pull a face, but like this one I really liked.
I actually found that I really like magical realism. Yeah, I know that it's not for everyone, but I found that I enjoy it a lot. I have heard one person, I don't remember who it was, one person definitely loved that particular book, Bedlam Stacks. They loved it so much, one of their favorite books of all time. And I'm like, oh, and I was, so then when you, like, that sounds, when you're mentioning it now, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I better check this one out.
There's some buzz. Yeah. Yeah, cool. What's the other magical realism one I thought was done pretty well? I think it's magical realism. The Carlos Rafael Ruiz. I can't remember.
Oh, Carlos Readathon. Yeah, one of my other favorite.
Readathon. Okay, yes, that one.
Well, I should say Shadow of the Wind is one of my favorite.
Yeah, that's the only one I've read is the first one, but yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, that was really, really good. I've read he wrote a YA book called Marina, which was also a Gothic novel, and it was really well done, but there was something missing in it for me. So it was like middle of the road, my rating, because I felt like there's like all the elements were there. It was exactly what it needed to be, but there was just a component missing there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Let's see. Pages at work for the library. So I'm working my way through a collection and figuring out what we can add to ours. It's over 2,000 titles. Wow. So that's good work.
Acquisitions?
I guess so.
Very exciting.
I know Paige works for the library. I just don't know exactly what she does there. But yeah, that's exciting.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right. So how long do you want to go for our first sprint?
25?
25 sounds good. I am probably just going to do a banner because I'm on this thing.
Yeah. Navigating a new environment.
So what does that put us at?
Well, if we start at 20 after, 45 after.
Yeah. Okay, Let's see. Edit. Change that too.
Oh. Paige says, usually I'm just front desk staff. This is just an extra little job they threw my way. That's fun.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really good. It's fun to have extra little projects.
Yeah. If Paige is a connoisseur of librarian books about librarians, she might want to check out Lonely Hearts Book Club. It's really cute and fun. I just read it a couple months ago.
Have I heard you mention that, or I feel like I've heard that in other places too.
I definitely reviewed it. Yeah, I had an audiobook.
I heard you talk about it. It looks cute. The cover.
Yeah.
The Beatles. Oh, cute. Yeah.
The Beatles.
Lonely. It's they're like they're walking in the crosswalk, kind of like they do in
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road. Yeah.
That's not the cover that I have. Oh, that's not the Lonely Hearts Book Club.
Oh.
I'm like, nope, wrong cover.
There we go.
It's like multicolored through a stack of like a carousel. Yeah, there you go.
I was like, that looks okay. So close. These titles are so close. Okay, there you go, Paige. Lonely Hearts Book Club.
Yeah, librarian, bookstore centered fiction, and it's a romance. And then like, check.
Yeah. Oh, I'm. No, I forgot. Anyways, I'm just really excited. So I was going to ask you about the readathon, but we'll talk about that after we do our 25 minutes.
Sounds good.
Okay. See everybody in 25 minutes. Let me put the banner up. Welcome back.
I ran out of tabs. Did you see? I ran out of tabs, so I had to get a new one.
Tabs?
Yeah. My
Oh
purple
no, I
ones
missed it.
are, like, reusable are out, so now I have to use the ones that fall off easily and you can't be reused. They're cute, but they're not as useful.
Oh no. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Oh, better. Sunny time.
Finished my hot chocolate.
Ooh. Special kind of hot chocolate or just regular, like?
Yeah, Moonstruck. It's like milk chocolatey, almond, cinnamony.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
It's pretty good.
So, how I was going to ask you what prompt does your book work for?
Let's see. Probably just the backlist one, because it's not genre. It's not Irish. It's not translated. It's not from Africa, Asia, or South America. So yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, that's mine too.
But I finished all the prompts already, actually, with 3 books. I got all 5 prompts.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And they were good. They're good. So one was Irish on audiobook, one was Japanese on library book, and one was purchased used that was translated. So like it was all distributed around. It's good.
Yeah, I gotta go back and watch your May of the Moderns wrap. Well, you know, your updates. I've been seeing them pop up. I just haven't had. It's not been the last couple of weeks for me.
Yeah. What has your last couple weeks been full of?
So mom got her knee replaced, so that was a big thing. So she got it done last Tuesday, and I'm her coach. And my aunt was here to help because I had a busy school week last week, and so that was great. But my aunt is she's a big loud personality, and she had 2 dogs, very loud dogs, and so it always felt like even more stressful.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah. But mom's progressing really well. In fact, she's now already on a cane. So she was up with a walker, and now she's able to get around a lot better in the house and do some things for herself. So that's really exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that must be the next vlog, because I think the last one you were both in the car going out to the bookstore, and maybe the next one I'll watch will be like the recovery process. So it's fun. It's fun to see.
Yeah, I can't wait to make another one of those. Those ones are so fun, those try a chapter ones. I'm like, well, Margaret, you're just gonna have to come up here and do a try a chapter with me.
I know. It's only like what, 6 hours or something?
Yeah, that's all. Or we'll just meet halfway.
Yeah. I mean, Olympic Peninsula. Can't argue with that.
I know.
Yeah. I'll just have to find a bookstore there that we can visit.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah. So it just hasn't been. My reading just hasn't been. It just hasn't been. Nothing. Let alone booktube. I just haven't. Yeah. It's okay. Because I've been enjoying my reading. You know, at least what I'm reading right now, I'm having fun with. And I am enjoying this. It's just what else did I read recently? I just started listening to Under the Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy because I'm doing Misery May. And that was one of his, like, when Scott was talking about, he did put out that, sorry. That was very loud. Scott was he put out his video where he was ranking all the Thomas Hardy based on miserableness and other factors. And Under the Greenwood Tree wasn't that miserable, but it was, I got it on audiobook. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, it's a nice short one. It's not a very long one. It's not very miserable at this point. So I guess it doesn't really count for Misery May.
Well, take it with a grain of salt, right? Yeah.
We'll see. Right.
I read 2 Thomas Hardy, and I'm not a fan. And someone recommended trying The Greenwood Tree because like that wasn't as much of the stuff that I didn't like about the other two. And I was like, do I give it a third chance, or do I just say there are a lot of other books, thanks, but no? So,
I mean,
if I don't get to be in the Hardy Club, I'm okay with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
He has a style, right? And
Yeah.
I really like to test the D'Urbervilles myself, and I'm also planning on reading Jude the Obscure. But yeah, there's a lot of people that he's just not for.
Yeah. I mean, I can appreciate some parts, but like the morality and the resolution is what I'm like, ugh. Like, no. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is miserable, so that works, right?
Oh, I was going to ask. So, have you come across any different adaptations of The Grapes of Wrath that have already entered your head in terms of like pop culture? Have you seen Melissa's Pop Culture Osmosis series where
no.
So Melissa's channel is called Fully Booked, and she's done this series probably like 6 or 7 Pop Culture Osmosis, where she thinks she knows something about the book, but she hasn't read it. So she writes down what she thinks she knows from like general pop culture trivia and then sees if she's right by reading it, and they're great. She does a vlog where she's like, oh my gosh, it's the opposite, or oh, I was right, look at that. And it's just funny, So yeah.
Okay.
Do you have stuff in mind from Grapes of Wrath? Henry
you
Ford
mean like
movie?
Preconceived? Or just
Because like I haven't read it, but I've seen the play and I've seen the movie. I think I've seen the movie.
I haven't seen either. I haven't. I'm just trying to think, because I think of Dust Bowl, it's the Dust Bowl era, and that's really what I have in my mind. But I don't know if I've ever actually seen anything seen any movies or anything like that during the Dust Bowl. But if I think of like this concept of you losing everything and you're having to move to a different place, I can think of a lot of like dystopian even movies, like apocalyptic almost, because they're just being kicked out. These people are just being kicked out of their place. They're not even given much of a chance. They have to like leave in a couple of days, if not a week. Otherwise, they literally get their house bulldozed, even if they're in it. Like they actually pay. They're like, we'll pay you extra money if you get the people in there at the same time. Like under, let's say. Yeah. And so like I guess I can't think of specific examples right now, though.
Okay. I think I said Henry Ford. I meant Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda is in like the original, black and white movie. And so I have like images of him playing the role, and he and Woody Guthrie sort of like trade places in my brain pan in terms of like they look kind of similar to me, and they have the same he in that movie anyway, and Woody Guthrie have the same kind of feeling.
Woody Guthrie.
Yeah.
Because I've really liked all the movies that I've seen Henry Fonda, and I've really liked him a lot, actually. Woody Oh, okay.
The singer.
Yeah.
Troubadour, kind of like an early Bob Dylan. Yeah. So, yeah. All right.
So Henry Fonda was in that. Okay, yeah, I definitely need to watch it. Because I liked him in 12 Angry Men. I really liked him in what was that other one? Failsafe.
Oh, I have never heard of that one.
It was it's a Cold War era book turned into a movie. He was in that, wasn't he? Yeah, he was in that. Those are the two I remember him most from. Yeah, I like Henry Fonda a lot, actually. I thought he was a really good actor.
Well, sorry. I don't know who you're envisioning in terms of your character in your mind. Do you envision the characters when you read?
Yeah, I was envisioning for the main character, Tom.
Nothing like
I was visioning more of a what's the guy from that Christmas movie?
That Christmas movie. Give me something more.
That really famous actor from the Christmas movie what's that Christmas movie called? Where his life is
Oh, Jimmy Stewart?
Mm-hmm. That's who I'm envisioning. I'm envisioning Jimmy Stewart for the main character. That's who's in my mind. Or at least Jimmy Stewart-esque.
Yeah.
Young Jimmy Stewart, not older Jimmy Stewart.
Why can't I think of that name of the movie now? It's not It Happened One Night. It's not
It's a Wonderful Life.
Thank you. I'm like, it's something life. Nice.
You know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing for it so far. Although I'm really starting to like some of the characters. There's some really interesting, odd characters, but that's really what Steinbeck does. He creates very interesting, unique characters, and I'm really liking how in every other chapter he's kind of giving us a taste of the like how bleak it is for these people, how sad it is, losing all these memories in an instant, and like every other chapter's like we're selling off all their goods in this one chapter, just going through the details of selling off the goods. So it's very descriptive of like, and it's like every other sentence is like, sell this for that much. It was worth this. It's and selling, and you're buying my bitterness as well. You're buying these memories when you buy these items. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
He does a very good job of making things bleak. Like, you know, in the way that we feel bleak about these horrible events, you know, it just, yeah.
I read a modern novel recently called Greenwood by Michael Christie. Have you heard about that one?
Yeah. I've been wanting to read that one.
It's multi-timeline, and one of the timelines that's visited is the Dust Bowl era, but it's in Canada, and it's exploring like the Dust Bowl phenomenon up there, and basically like the people seeing it coming and hearing it in the news and like having to keep it out of the house, and like the daily preparations you would have to do, and hoping that you could plant trees to ward it off. And
that's interesting. It almost reminds me of like
different take.
Sorry, continue. It almost reminds me of the way you think when it comes to like a pandemic. Like that.
Yeah.
How to prepare yourself, knowing it's coming, you know, like I don't know, just kind of the way you described it made me think of like, I guess anything that's when it's affecting a large group of people and it's something that's scary, you don't know how it's going to affect you, and how do you prepare for this when you don't know exactly what's going to happen, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would consider it a slow-moving natural disaster, and I can't think of any others that are slow-moving because they're mostly like you have a few days at most notice. So this is the slowest of natural disasters because you can see it coming, and like it's a slow, painful death of everything you've worked for. Like,
Isn't climate change a slow-moving natural disaster?
Even slower moving, but more certain. Yes. Yes.
And more immediately, meaning like it's going to affect you immediately, you know, in a more, I mean, not saying that climate change won't, just saying like if they're waiting for this thing to come, they know it's coming. How can they prepare against it? But it will happen whether they like it or not, sort of thing. Yeah, that's scary.
Do you mean, yeah, well, it's not immediate enough for some people. So
what do you mean?
No, well, I think I'm understanding you correctly. Some people are seeing the effects of climate change still as too far off to have to worry about. And so
I meant the book Greenwood.
Oh, okay. So
I meant
they're
like
seeing it as immediate. Yeah, because it's the summer that it happened that they watch all this unfold. And I think one of the characters is one of the traveling men who are finding a place to eat on the porch, and it's just really neat how they have the lives sort of intersect in these different ways. It's pretty cool.
I really love books like that where these lives intersect and you're finding out about these different characters and you don't necessarily see how they're going to intersect in the long run, but then you get to see them come together, and then you see how I really like that kind of story where you know, completely different people have no connection to begin with, and then they come together in some way.
Yeah. It's not just like one direction, one arc. It's just like, it's like a sweetgrass basket, sort of like, you know, being creative as you're reading. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So you read that fairly recently, and I just finished it.
Braiding Sweetgrass?
How'd you feel? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You just finished it? I read it in December. So good.
Yeah.
So good. There's something about the way that Robin Wall Kimmerer writes that is both inclusive and not cheesy. Like, it's authentic and not like corny in a way that you can make fun of. It's just wholehearted and open and welcoming and calming. I really love her writing. Yeah.
Yeah, and she brings in the spirituality in a way that's very authentic as well, and it's not exclusionary in any way. And so you're just understanding and experiencing what she is saying, what she's talking about from, like you said, a very authentic voice. But it also feels like you're involved in this, and that you're a big part, which we are. We're all a part of this. But and it feels like I love how it. I really loved it too. I definitely loved some of the stories. They were so really impactful. And then, but overall, as the collection, it was so cohesive. I thought it was really, really clever.
Yeah.
And but then, you know, she gets angry at the right points and brings like the Wendigo at the very end to bring that impact. It's just like, it's really very clever, very smart. She's an artist. So it was really fun to read that.
Yeah, she backs away and refuses to like be defined by a binary of science and religion, and she somehow encapsulates it all in a way that is like, you can't run away from it. It's all together. Like, you know, it's good. It's really good.
And the reality of it is we can't run away from it. We might think we can, but we're not going to be able to.
Have you read her Moss book?
No, I haven't. Is that newer? I haven't.
It's older, I think, and I think it's harder to get a hold of because it's an academic press. But it should be in bookstores or good bookstores, dare I say. But Gathering Moss, first one I read, this was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Okay, I need to get that one. I do love Moss too.
I know. Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, it's here.
I need to like throw a sign for Moss. I need like a gang sign for Moss. I can flag.
Moss in the house. Oh my goodness. Well, I hope everybody else's reading is going well.
Yeah. Does anyone else put anything in what they're reading?
Yeah, what are you reading with us today?
What readathons are you participating in? They go really well together. There's Misery May. There's plenty of moderns that are miserable for sure. There's Montgomery May. Everything Ella Montgomery wrote is modern, I think, because she started Edwardian. I think. What was the third one? Mental health. There's definitely mental health stuff that's happening in modern books. Horror or mayhem. I mean, I didn't look for horror books, but like I'm sure there's horror in moderns. So yeah,
I'm also currently reading. Oh, I haven't picked it up since I mentioned it on when you were doing your last.
Oh, it's Faulkner,
yeah, Sound the Fury. There's a lot of mental health. I mean, the main character.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a lot of loud bikes out today because it's such a beautiful day. So yeah, this is also modern, and I've heard this is incredibly miserable.
Yes, yes.
Incredibly
I had to read it in
miserable.
High school. I had to read it in junior high, I think. Too young.
Really?
Yeah.
It's so difficult to read. I mean, like, I'm struggling to read it. How would they have made you read it at such a young age?
8th grade. I don't know.
I'm impressed, to be honest, because I'm finally getting into the cadence of it because the writing style is so unique. I don't think I would have been able to get into it as an 8th grader.
I didn't. I don't know how many people did. I definitely don't have fun.
I highly doubt. Do you remember anybody saying they liked it? Because
I don't.
why would the teacher pick this?
I don't know.
I think that's college level reading. I
Yeah.
don't think that's
Yeah.
middle school reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So I've heard, I haven't got that far yet, but I've heard that's really miserable. So once I get through that too, like I'm doing pretty good this month. As far as, well, not my actual reading, but you know.
All right, I'm gonna put my book in there since you did that. I wanted to match.
Yeah. So
I think I want to switch it next time, actually.
what are you thinking about The Road to Wigan Pier?
So we're still with the coal miners because this is the North
Mhm.
Country of England in the 1930s. He's gone from basically the first part I read was about what their shift of work is like and what is not included in that. So like what they call traveling, which means when you get down in the cage, you have like a mile or 3 or 5 to walk in like 4 feet of space to the place where you start your work.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then your shift starts. So like it's basically nickel and diming people because they're using their time without compensating them for it. So there's that. And then he talks about the homes that they're living in the piece that I've just read. Not only like the routine of when they eat and sleep and how little time they have that isn't work, eat, or sleep, but also what privileges and luxuries they have at home, like no hot water and, no
Yep.
place to put the coal or no place to put the sink except in the living room and like stuff like that. And then wages. So yeah, pretty rough.
Yeah. I need to put that one on my list. I really like, that sounds so bad. I really like books like that.
Yeah. Because it opens your eyes to like
Yeah.
the rest of the world. He concludes the last part of the chapter with comparing,
I
like
already have it on
bringing
my
it back
list.
to himself. Even when
Mhm.
I am on the verge of starvation, I have certain rights attaching to my bourgeois status. I do not earn much more than a miner earns, but I do at least get it paid into my bank in a gentlemanly manner and can draw it out when I choose. And even when my account is exhausted, the bank people are still passably polite. This business of petty inconvenience and indignity, of being kept waiting about, of having to do everything at other people's convenience, is inherent in working class life. So he's talking about how they get paid and everything. He brings it back at the end to like compare with his own experience. He's good.
Yeah, he's really good. And that's a big reason why they're kept, people within those lower statuses are kept in those positions, because it's all about the way society sees them, and society places them in this role, and you can't get out of it. It's really hard to try to, lift yourself up, because
Right.
you're pegged as this, and that is all you'll ever be.
Yeah. The assumptions that people make about you are powerful. He ends it with saying that the reason you find leaders from middle class or educated classes is because they have the cheek to think that they deserve something more, whereas people who are working class are often too beat down to consider their the possibility of getting around the man. And so at some point someone was coming to shoot the leaders of some rebellion, the commune in France, and they said they shot that guy because he had a watch. They shot that guy because he had an intelligent face. Like they looked like the leaders because they look like middle class. And he's like, I wouldn't like that to happen to me, but I understand what's going on here. It's crazy, right?
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is. Yeah, I actually already had that on my list of books to read, so
It's good.
I'm
It's
excited.
a good
I mean, more excited now.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
But you're gonna switch over.
Yes. I should change my headline now. But yeah, how long would you like to do for the next sprint?
Oh, what time is it? I guess another 25 minutes or 30. What do you think?
30's good.
Okay.
I don't think we'll have another. Yes, the translation. The Spanish title is so much more evocative than the English.
What is the Spanish?
Los de abajo, us, those from below, rather than the underdogs. I think we just overuse underdogs. Yeah,
I think so too. It's lost its power.
it's sparkle. Yeah. It's like a sporting term. And you're like, yeah, but there's things more important than sports. So, yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and yeah, I think because it's become a sporting term, it's lost a lot of its power and what the intention behind the term underdogs is.
Yeah. You're
All
going to
right.
keep on.
Well.
All right.
Huh? I'm going to keep on keeping on with Grapes of Wrath.
Okay.
With Jimmy Stewart.
All right. We'll see if he morphs in your head by the time that you finish. Okay. 30 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Okay. I'm back.
You're having a whole conversation.
Yeah, I'm doing it. So I'm doing a buddy read of this with Mary Jo Hedrick, and so I was just talking about it.
Nice.
On we're using WhatsApp.
Boxer or WhatsApp?
No, we're using WhatsApp.
So many choices.
I know there are, and I've done it. I was also buddy reading with Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot and Amanda from the Reading Writing Life. So I've been doing some buddy reads. That's the only thing that's going well this month is my buddy reads.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
I had like a whole bunch at once, and then I've had none for months, and I'm trying to get them together, and it's just not happening. So I'd like to do more. Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. They can be overwhelming when you have too many, but then of course it's so nice to talk, chat with people about books. It's just
exactly
so much fun. I see
this.
Jean. Yes, exactly. I see Jean joined us for a little bit. Probably, yeah, Neva's 24-hour sprints. I think Neva's doing a 24-hour readathon. I'm glad you were able to join us for at least a little bit of it, Jean. But yeah, nope, they were this week.
Do you have any interest in ever doing a 24-hour readathon?
I am more of a fan of the 24 in 48-hour readathon.
Yes.
Because I need to sleep.
Yes.
So.
Was it Doris who had the like slow readathon where it was like over a 3-day weekend?
I don't know, but that's smart.
Yeah, it was like 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours. And I was like, that's my kind of retreat, like reading retreat. That sounds wonderful.
I've done that before too. Yeah. Because the 12 hours and 24 hours and 24 in 48 is still 12 hours a day, which is a bit much. But if you get some audiobooks in there, it's totally doable. But the 24-hour readathons where you're just trying to read straight for 24 hours, if I'm tired, I will go to sleep. I'm not going to attempt to sleep. Yeah. I'm not going to attempt to keep myself up.
Yeah. It's not healthy. It's not good.
Yeah. No.
I have this classic picture of me growing up. I've got a soccer uniform on, and I'm at the kitchen table, and I'm asleep on the table on my homework, and you can tell it's like my Hebrew Bible homework that I was working on. I was like, not keeping me awake. Obviously,
yeah. I've always thought like people who have a harder time sleeping, I think textbooks are one of the best ways to go. It's like really effective.
Yeah.
Effective. Just get yourself a physics textbook. You'll fall asleep in no time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've fallen asleep in so many books, especially school books. So many books. And those are heavy when they fall on your head.
Yeah. I don't think I've had anything fall on my face because I fell asleep while I was reading. Because normally I can't do this for a long time anyway. My arms just sort of collapse before my consciousness collapses. But yeah, I'll definitely like be reading in my armchair where I have like a thing like what's it called? An armchair with the things on the sides. I forgot. I'm momentarily.
An armchair?
Huh?
An armchair? What is that?
Like a chair with arms?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's not there's a name for it. It's not high back. It's not Windsor. There's some kind of name, and I'm just blanking on it right now. Anyway, when I curl up in that chair, there's the thing to lay my head against, and I'll just set the book down and like gradually just go to sleep. I can tell it's coming. So
just slowly sliding down. Yeah. Yeah, books, especially when I'm tired, they just don't keep me up. So I applaud people for doing their 24-hour readathons, but it's just not something I can do.
Yeah.
I've tried. I've attempted in the past just for the heck of it, and it's just not my thing.
Well, you tried. That's more than I've done.
Yeah. I like the 8 hours a month reading. That's really good. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Because then you get other things done, right?
Yeah.
A bit. 8 hours is a good chunk
of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, how many books have you read this month so far already for May the Moderns?
For
You
May of the
finished the
Modern,
3.
I've completed 3. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm working on 3 more. But this one, this best of, is like 600 something pages. So I don't know. I mean, no one's requesting it from the library, but I don't know if it'll get done by May. We'll see.
How far along are you in it so far?
I am at page 170. So a third. Less
do you try to do a certain number of short stories a day? No.
It's like roulette. I go, okay, I've got an hour and I'm going to read all the books, and I just read something until I feel like I've read enough of it, and then I switch to another one. I don't know. It's very lackadaisical. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you have cattle in a field and they've grazed enough and you move them to the next field. That's kind of like the way my mind is working.
Like cattle in a field.
Like that. Yeah.
Are they pastoral stories?
No, they're very citified. Very citified. Yeah.
So tell me about. Sorry.
Or We Villages.
I like We Villages.
Yeah.
Tell me about the other book you're reading then, the Underdogs.
Okay, so
you told me about the other one, but
yeah, so the one that I was just reading for the last sprint, it's like flashes of scenes. So far, we started out with a certain. What did we start out with? We started out with a house where like they were under attack from soldiers, and then you came up to the band that was being chased by them up into the mountains, and then there's a confrontation with the soldiers, and there's some injuries, and then they take refuge, and there's like we were saying, a guy with an intelligent face or like glasses or something has come to join them, and they shot him in the foot because they didn't trust him. So now he's trying to convince them that he's on their side because he believes in the ideals of the revolution, but they're like, and now he's wavering because he's like, am I really going to shackle myself to these idiots? And like, yeah. So it's interesting. I'm not sure I can read the tone when something is humor or sarcasm and when it's like true. So I'm not sure I'm getting the right events, but by the end, I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Is it supposed to be satirical?
I don't know. I read the introduction to this one too, and I was choosing what to read. And episodic quality. What else did they say? The story is told on 2 levels: on that of the author's concern with the ethics of men, how men act and what they expect from others and their society, and on the social level, the movement that forces individuals to act even while they themselves may not be clear on what is going on. So I guess there is supposed to be an element of confusion. Oh, good. Yeah.
Confused about the confusion.
Yeah. I don't know. This is when I try to, like, if I don't understand the whole, or if I don't trust that I'm getting the whole flavor of the content, I just sort of let it try to bear me on like a river and see if it catches up with me. And if it doesn't, then that was my experience. But if it does, then it's actually kind of clever. And maybe that was supposed to be how you absorb it. I don't know.
Do you ever notice that humor is difficult to translate when it comes to different translations, like translated works, that the humor sometimes just doesn't always come through, or at least the humor is so different that it's not easy to get a grasp of?
Right. And since the past is another country, it's like you're sort of translating from like 1920s or 1930s and the social milieu to now. So yeah, 100 years can be just like translating, even if it's written in English. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like when I was reading, not Agatha Christie, but Dorothy Sayers, the other like Golden Age mysteries, or P.G. Wodehouse, both of those that I read, and I was just like, I get how these are supposed to be funny, but I don't think that humor is funny. Like it's
right.
either it's too condescending or it's too self-absorbed, and I just sort of I don't get into it, but I can understand what it's supposed to be doing. Whereas with a translation, I'm not sure. If I can't see the other side or understand the other language, then it's like I maybe am getting 70% of this, and I'm not sure how it's supposed to hit. So yeah.
Am I getting the humor, or is this just not meant to be a moment where it's humor?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be this awkward?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, is that part of the fun? Not fun, but like, yeah. I see that.
Are you coming across much humor in the Grapes of Wrath?
Well, the grandfather character, Grandpa is pretty funny. He's a good character, and I do find that Steinbeck usually creates characters like that to relieve some of the tension, especially in some of these stories that are more on topics that are really, like Of Mice and Men, similar. You have moments in it it has like tension relieving moments, and Grandpa is the tension relieving character in this. So yeah, a little bit. He's kind of funny. I kind of giggle at him here and there. I'm like, Grandpa, you're so. He's really what do they call it? They say Grandpa's so like endearingly offensive. Like, he makes all these sex jokes and stuff like that. So he's like, "Oh, Grandpa, you're so offensive. You just get more offensive and offensive as you go on."
So he's like a Simpsons character.
Yeah, exactly. Endearingly offensive. So yeah, Grandpa, he's our character. But so like they did with it seems like there's like a chapter where they talk about what's going on overall and the general feeling of what these people are going through with the Dust Bowl and this whole situation that's happening. And then the next chapter is on the Jode family and that's how that particular thing applies to them. So like the one chapter was buying whatever automobile you need to go to the California. And of course you've got these car dealers that are just cheating them completely, but no, they have no choice. And they're like, I like lemons. Let's buy as many lemons as we can. Let's just keep getting all the lemons. It's my best day if I can have all these lemons. And they're trying to sell people all these lemons, vehicles. And so then you're kind of seeing that from both perspectives, like the dealer's perspective. And then the next chapter, they talk about the truck that they bought, the Jode family bought to go to California. Then this next chapter was on selling everything. They had to sell other stuff. And of course, there are people who came in specifically knowing that people would have to sell other stuff and only buying it for like, oh, well, that's not worth anything. I'm not taking it, even though it's worth a lot. There's these different things they're trying to sell. And they're like, well, we don't need it. We aren't going to take anything. But of course, these families know they have to get rid of it. They can't take it. So they're willing to take a lot less money for their stuff just to unhaul it. And so they're coming back with so little money when they need that money to move. And so then the next chapter is the Jode family saying how little money they got during selling all their stuff. So like there's like these tie-ins where it's like this general idea of what's happening and then how it's affecting our family. And I kind of like the formatting of it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it. I'm really liking it. So yeah, it's just depressing, all these I mean that's the intention, right? The intention of Misery May is to read miserable books and to think about.
Here's a trick question. Is it depressing that the same social problems are still plaguing us 100 years later? Because I mean, climate change aside, there are already like the mixings or the fixins for like the same social conflict and misery that exists today. Like when I'm when I'm watching some of my current events and comedian broadcasts on YouTube, it's about the housing crisis or inflation or, like the one I just watched from Robert Reich was about child labor. And I was like, child labor, isn't that an early 20th century problem? Like, why? What? Yeah. Crazy.
But I think that's what makes it depressing, is because it still applies. Like, it still applies. There are still many situations that are, and it's. I think the way Steinbeck writes is very much the human condition sort of thing. He really focuses on humanity a lot and how humanity faces these events as individuals, as normal people, and that's what makes it feel so realistic. And that's how it can transfer to so many different time periods, because these situations don't go away, and we keep repeating so many of the things, that so many of the hardships, so many situations.
Does that make it almost like a hopeful point, because like we faced this down before and it's just like a waxing and waning, kind of like we think about bank regulations? Like we came to this point, we got a solution, it worked for a while, and then people forgot the reason for it and repealed it, and now we're back in the same situation. So different, use a different tactic, but we know we could do something about it. So there's hope, or no?
It makes me think of the Orwell book you're reading, and this idea of these same people are the ones that go through, not exactly the same people, but the same type of people go through these situations. Who's affected most by these situations? Who's not going to be affected as much by them? And of course, it's always the people in power, the people with money. It's the same is true in this. They blame the banks, whereas now we blame corporate America and stuff like that. But it's still, this group of people are not being affected in this, it's just, and then kind of like you said with Orwell, like there's certain people that are pegged as being these people, and they're the ones who are going to continue to live that lifestyle.
Shafted. A mining metaphor. Look at that, everyone. Yeah. There are words that I didn't know. I had to look up. Well, here's a bad one. Christy Minstrel. I mean, he's trying to describe what people look like when they're covered with coal dust. He's just describing a blackface thing, which is still going on in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And then a dattler, which is like a day worker in the mines, and how dangerous their job was.
How do you spell that?
Dattaller. I don't know how to say it. I just looked it up. I didn't find a pronunciation.
Dayteller?
Could be any number of ways. Dattaller.
I wonder why that.
Daytaller, like teetotaler. I don't know how to say teetotaler either. Never makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Teetotaler?
Oh, yeah.
Teetotaler.
That's how I've always said it, but teetotaler? Is that how you're supposed to say it? Teetotaler? No, I've always said teetotaler.
It's a nonsense word, so whenever I say it, it sounds wrong.
Dayteller. I have never heard of that one either.
Yeah.
But this is set in England, right? So
it's a coal industry word for like a day worker or whatever those are called. Yeah. In other industries. So very niche.
Yeah. Specific.
Yeah.
Yikes. Coal mining, any kind of mining, just scary, especially when you're going down into the frightening.
Yes.
I've been to Butte and done like the tours where you learn about the mines and go down into the mines to learn about the history. And
really,
it's very claustrophobic. It's incredible. I mean, horrible.
Yeah.
It's the result is like there's a Superfund problem because of the huge lake, and that's so poisoned. But also very interesting history to go and observe and to learn about. And then when you go down into the mines, you just can feel how claustrophobic it had to have felt all the time. You're in this all the time, and you're hearing, like, imagine you're hearing all these explosions because they're intentionally blowing holes into, but you never know which one is going to bring things down, because it can happen. Like, it doesn't happen all the time necessarily, but it can happen.
Yeah.
That had to have been like high pressure. And then it was warm down there. It was hot. Like, it's not cool.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's homoerotic. Not this one, but he's talking about like how the men down there are basically naked. Sometimes they wear their drawers. Sometimes they don't. They have knee pads and like, I don't remember what else, like clogs. That's what it was. Because it's so bleeding hot down there. he talks about the
Oh yeah.
improvements, the like machines that they use that make the coal come out faster and how that makes it worse. And he said, well, it could be attributed to some conservatism in the coal mining population, but they give reasons for it. When you have all this noise, you can't hear if the wooden props are creaking before they split. So there's that. When you have all this vibration, you can't feel in your feet like where, if an explosion is coming, like where it's going to happen. There was a couple other things that were associated with the machines, but it was like, yeah, like, no, this is real. This isn't just like people not wanting change. So, oof.
And then, of
Serious.
course, they tell you about the canary and why they had canaries down there.
Oh, this one doesn't have canaries. This one has Davy lamps.
No.
They
Nope.
go
Oh,
blue
okay.
if you have gas.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
kind
they
of cool.
talked about the canaries and how the canaries just keel over, and then you're like, oh, we better get out quick. Yeah. And there's no getting out quick in a mine, you know?
No, because you
Especially
have 3 miles
for a
to walk
larger
bent
people.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds horrifying. I better read it.
With a vote of confidence. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I read a lot. I read a lot of nonfiction that is heavy or uncomfortable that makes me, you know, think of things a certain way. And I don't know. Some of it's old and still applies. So my hashtag, Queen of Books You've Never Heard of, it's like, yes. They're still worthy of your reading is my point. So that's why I like to bring them.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. What made you start May of the Moderns?
So as a booktuber, I was trying to grow and meet more people, and I thought, well, I don't know if there's room on this boat of Victober people. I would love to be on the boat with the Victober people because I love Victorian times, and that's what I write, and that's what I love reading, and but it was already done. So I didn't want to like steal their thunder. So I was like, well, the one right after them, right? There's no readathon for that yet. So I decided to like chop off the next like sort of period of literary history and see if people were interested in that. So that's all.
I think it's interesting because I feel like that is a period of literary history that doesn't get talked about quite as much. It may be read a lot, but I feel like it doesn't get talked about quite as much.
Well, you can chop it up totally differently, right? I mean, you can say there's all these smaller periods within that period, or there's a much larger, why didn't you just go 20th century? And it's like, well, because there's certain things happening around the 2 world wars that I thought were really earth-shaking, that I thought would be interesting to focus on. Like, how does all that dislocation affect people and like turn their world upside down? And I feel like we're going through another one of those. And so that's why I was like, oh, let's look at this past history period that has nothing to do with life now and see if we can draw any lessons.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, which is what I do with my historical fiction novels. So it's kind of like the same impulse that is coming in sneakily, I guess, from my personality.
Yeah. I like that though. There's so much that can be drawn from what we read, you know, and especially concerning the things that are happening right now. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's nothing new.
Do you have a favorite era or like grouping of literature, whether it be by country or event? No? Equal opportunity?
I don't think so.
Really?
I'm an equal opportunity reader, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any eras that I don't like reading about.
I mean, I'm sure there's genres.
Yeah. But not really. I'm so like, I guess it's kind of lame, but I'm sort of like like an inch deep, mile wide kind of person.
Oh yeah.
Not meaning I don't have any substance, just meaning that my interests are always so varied.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for me to say like this is definitively my favorite thing because I read pretty widely and I can't say there's been any period that I've read where I'm like, oh, I just hate reading about that. I could say there were specific books that I didn't like reading that were set in those times, but it's more about the actual book than it is about learning about that time period. I'm a big history buff, so I just like learning about different time periods.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's something that I prefer. I'm really bad about coming up with favorites.
Yeah.
Tell me yours, Margaret. Obviously Victorian era.
Yeah, Victorian, Edwardian, you know, the early decades of the 20th century. But like, I was just gonna comment on your inch deep, mile wide comment because like, have you heard of the phrase refuse to choose? Like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm with you. And I resent how the terms that describe people like that, like amateur and dilettante, are so negatively connoted. You know, like person who wants to learn about everything and doesn't have the impulse to go deep in everything. Like, there's value to that, just like there's value in specialists. But I don't think that is generally understood in the way I would like it to be, I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, it's helping me with my becoming a teacher, because becoming a teacher, especially because I'm becoming an elementary school teacher, I need to know a lot about a lot of things. Not necessarily a lot. I need to know about a lot of different things. And so it helps that I am reading, you know, it helps that I have an interest in a lot of different things so that I can teach many different subjects, and I can also intertwine a lot of things, and I have a lot of knowledge. It may not be that I have all the knowledge on this one topic, but I have a lot of knowledge. It's very useful to me. But I wouldn't say that, I agree with you. I don't like that it's kind of looked at as a negative thing in some ways, because I do think it has a lot of value and it's very helpful. It's helpful for you when thinking about all these different topics, when coming up with, you know, when writing it, and knowing a lot about different things and how to apply that, then having interest in different areas. Like, I think it's very useful. I think it just depends on what you use it for.
Yeah. How you put it to use.
Yeah. And let's see.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly. It's good to see you. Anyone else suffer from reading ADD, like always having multiple books to read at once and then it takes forever?
No, I have no idea what you mean.
I mean, I'm currently reading about 5 or 6 books, so yeah, I understand.
Did you want to talk about the other ones that you hadn't mentioned before? I've got 2. You want to talk about your other?
So I'm reading The Sound and the Fury. I'm reading Grapes of Wrath. I'm also reading
Hardy. Under the Greenwood
Thomas
Tree.
Hardy, Under the Greenwood Tree. The Mime Order.
Who's that?
This is Samantha Shannon.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
This is the second book in the Bone season.
Got it. Okay.
I know. Sorry. And then, actually, I'm only reading 4 books at the moment, but I just finished one today, and then I also need to start that one. This one, The Good Master.
Got it. Okay.
So I need to start this one too. So only
have you
4
read
that I'm.
Have you read The Priory of the Orange Tree from Samantha Shannon?
Not yet, but I got it recently, so I'm like.
Okay, because that's the only one of hers I've read, so I wonder if it's similar to her other books.
I think Priory of the Orange Tree was adult, wasn't it?
Yes.
This is YA, and I'm really enjoying it, but a lot of people had mixed opinions on it, and apparently she wants to go back now because it has become a pretty popular series, and since I think it was one of her first series, she wants to change some things about it. Not like, I think maybe even formatting. I don't know. I don't know what she plans on changing, but I heard that for like the 10th year anniversary edition, she wants to change some things.
Is it going to be edited or different edition?
I think edited. I think being edited.
That's so weird. That's so weird to do that. I don't get that impulse, but you know, Joyce Carol Oates did it, so I guess anyone else can.
Well, I'm just like, I'm not going to buy another set of books. So don't do it.
Right. So
Go
these
ahead.
are the
Sorry.
two that
What
I'm
are you
reading that we talked about already for the moderns. And then the other two that I'm reading, they're not related so far, is Thin Places, A Natural History
that's
of Healing and
pretty.
Home. Yeah, it is really pretty. Carrie Nidokhity, and it's a new book. So I bought a new hardcover when Independent Bookstore Day. That's what it was for. And this is
Really pretty.
Talk about people ground into the dust. This is a woman who grew up in Derry in Northern Ireland during the height of the Troubles. Bombed out of a house, moved across town to the other sectarian place, like made to feel unwelcome in that place, like left, tried to make a career, depression, all these kinds of things. And then she starts being called back to what she calls thin places. And she uses a moth from the beginning as a really neat metaphor and talks about like bodies of water and relating to the natural world as part of her coming back to her own life. And it's really good. So there's that one. And then The Body Keeps the Score, which Marilyn Maya Mendoza just mentioned, Holly. Have you read this one?
No, I've heard great things. I do want to read it.
Yes. I'm trucking
What do you
along
think
on that
so
one. Really, really good. What I was telling Marilyn in a comment was that he's direct and gentle, talking about very traumatic things from the physician and researcher's point of view, but he lays it out so that you understand the scientific stuff, like some others don't do. So I'm really appreciating it, how he does it.
It's like based on, it has a lot to do with generational trauma, right? And
I'm not even to that part yet. He's telling like the story of his learning ever since he was an assistant, attending, or whatever, all those stages of becoming a doctor. He's learning from his patients that things happen not in the way you're taught to evaluate them. And so he's accruing or gathering all this evidence that he's going to put into play. Like he starts doing research with people about how trauma actually affects how your brain works. And so if you want to actually heal it, talk therapy may not be the way, and medicine and drugs may not be the way. You may have to do something to train the brain, either from the prefrontal cortex end or from the amygdala end. So top down or bottom up. And I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating. I don't know how the brain works, but I'm like learning some sort of like map of all the systems, and it's so cool. I'm not a science person, so like I'm actually learning science and how my body works. It's great. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the part where he's actually talking to therapist stuff yet.
Okay, I'm curious because I thought it had. I wasn't sure, but I kind of thought it had something to do with a generational trauma because I forget what they're called because my brain is just not working right now, and I should know this because I have background in biology. But when it comes to your DNA, there are almost like switches in a sense on your DNA. They're not part of the DNA wave being rearranged or anything like that. It's actually, what is the term for it? That
a thiel or a tail or
no.
It was an unfamiliar word to me, so I've got like the shape of it in my head, but not the actual word.
What is it called? It's not going to come to me right now because I need it to come to me right now, and so it's not going to. DNA switches. Predispositions? No, I'm thinking of the actual term. What are they called? The switches on your DNA. But hi, Leanna. It's good to see you. It's not gonna. It's so. Anyways, and that's what they're starting to say shows genetic. The generational trauma is these. No, it's gonna drive me nuts because I can't think of it.
I know. Let me see if I can find it in any of my tabs here. I seem to remember that being talked about on the bottom left of the page. Do you do that where you can remember where something is? Let me see. Visual memory.
What are they called? What are the proteins called that? They're not on the DNA. They're the way DNA is wrapped up. There are switches on the DNA that has a name that switch on and off to actually express that gene. And sometimes they are meant to be switched on or meant to be switched off, but because of generational things through your DNA, generational trauma that's happened, certain things get switched on and off that shouldn't be, or should or shouldn't be, and that affects like your grandchildren even. So like that's how they have shown that like famine in a family
Right.
can affect your great grandchildren. And I just can't remember the name of it right now, but that's okay. So I was thinking that the book had something to do with that, like that concept. But
yeah.
anyways, long story short to say, that's what I thought the book was about. So I'll be interested to hear what you think about it ultimately and what else you find out, because I think that's an interesting subject anyway. Anything where we learn about ourselves, I think is fascinating because it gives a lot of insight.
Yeah, I can't find it either. Yeah, that actually is more to do with this book, talking about generational trauma, but maybe towards the end it's more about it here. I will tell you in a review in one of these Wednesday wrap-ups.
Good. I'll be looking forward to it. So then, you know, because I've heard other people say really good things about that one, and I have wanted to pick it up because it sounds like something I would enjoy. And I just love, not even, I mean, I love science, but I also love history of science. I just love hearing people's experience in science. So I've always been a fan of hearing about the process of science. There was a part of me that like, I got my degree in science, but I'm like, I should have got my degree in science history because I just find it fascinating.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very interested in morals when it comes to science too, morality in science. And so, I think that kind of leans into the history and stuff. So like, so
he has this whole section I just passed that is talking about the DSM and how it was formed and how it expressly said these are not clear enough to be used for insurance and diagnosis, not diagnosis, because that's what the DSM is for, but insurance or whatever purposes. And that's precisely what people use it for now. And he's intimating that the fact that they make a lot of money on selling these manuals is the reason why they keep coming out with new editions and not necessarily helpful in the new changes of diagnosis. And I was like, oh, and the plot thickens. Like, yeah, it's pretty dicey.
I think medicine in general is very interesting because I feel like there's so much we still either don't know or we're not even making an effort to know because we've got so settled and there's so many limitations in the system that yes, epigenetics. Thank you, Leanna. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. I thought you were talking about like the piece of the cell structure. That's what I was looking for with my like a theo kind of word. Yeah.
So epigenetics is part, like there's an actual name for the switches and stuff like that. It's on the cell structure. It's not on the cell structure. It's like once the DNA gets folded up into the way it's folded up in the histones, there are the switches that are on the DNA that like express the genes or don't express the genes. And that's part of epigenetics. So, which is where all that generational trauma comes from.
Yeah. So you got your word, but I still don't have the one I'm trying to think of.
Sorry. That was helpful for me, Leanna. Not so much for Margaret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, when you have I was just going to say, when you have the vehicle of your society in one gear, which is capitalism, like medicine is feeding itself incentives to go one way. So you're only going to go that way. It's like a lock on the steering wheel. So yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It was eating away at me.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of putting it. Thank you for you having the words for me, because that's what is reality, and it's a really sad reality, because I feel like we are progressing so much when it comes to certain things, but then in other ways we hold ourselves back because of this capitalistic society, capitalistic, you know? Yeah.
Yes. 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 Good deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, this has been great.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I love like talking about reading, and then it just develops into all these other overlapping interests.
I know. It's fantastic.
Well,
I like that. I love these kind of conversations through. You know, we don't end up reading as much. We just end up talking about reading. That's what I like. No, I like that.
Like, think about your history of science thing. When you think about the early stuff that I study, because I went into a little bit of herbalism education to try to have background for my Victorian peasants' daily lives, right? And so I got into like doctrine of signatures and that kind of stuff. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So early herbalism stuff, like, I don't know, from the late Romans to the medieval times, people were using the fact that a plant looked like a certain part of the body to connect it to treat ailments of that part of the body. So like, you know, I don't even know. Stuff that looks like lungs would be used for respiratory ailments. Stuff that look like brains would be used for like fevers of the brain, or, you know, whatever weird terms they would use. And this is how scientists of that day would try to connect things and like experiment. So like think from that we've come all this way to being able to like look at genes and what, you know, it's pretty crazy. Pretty cool.
It's really incredible. Yeah, it's really incredible. Yeah, and then just seeing the progression of it, and that's kind of what was fascinating to me about braiding sweetgrass. And I've always been very interested in the fact that as a society that really believes strongly in Western science, we have no room for any other forms of science, which I think is crazy, because where do we think the science came from? Like, where do we think all these ideas originated from?
Yeah. China, Islam.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's always like, and yet we have no room for these other sciences, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. So then, like, that's where I think a lot of the history is interesting too, because you see where the origins of science originated from these different places and these different ideas, and you know they came from all these different indigenous backgrounds or different cultural backgrounds. Like, why can't we value that now? Yeah. And because I see that a lot, and I see that in schools, even like we're trying, especially here in Washington, we're trying to bring in more indigenous perspectives, looking at indigenous ways of knowing when it comes to science, and some people have a really hard time with it.
Yep.
And so I think that's why I just loved braiding sweetgrass, because she has a Western science background, but then she also has this indigenous background, and being able to bring it together and show how they can work together. They don't always, but how they should be able to. Yeah. It's just, that stuff is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Good deal. So what is coming in the near future for your channel? What are you excited about booktube wise? I know I'm going to try to horn in on your next try a chapter. So you're going to be calling me when you have that on the hook, right? But what else can we look forward to?
I am going to be coming up with a list of 45 books to read before I'm 45.
Oh, so how far away are we from that? You have a while before that, don't you?
I'm 40, so I couldn't do a 40 before 40 because it was, I didn't have enough time for that. But I've got 5 years, which is actually perfect for me because I'm not that quick of a reader. So 40, and these are, so it'll be fun. That'll be a fun thing. And then I do plan on reading a lot more in June. So hopefully I'll be able to get some fun projects that I've got in the works going in June. Just school is busy. How about you?
Well, wrapping up the Readathon, and then we've got the conference, the AuthorTube Writing Conference. You've probably seen snippets of things on my channel. St. Houston is the real engine behind all of that, but I am helping her with some of the side details. And so that's going to be the 23rd, 24th, 25th of June. on everyone's channel who is participating. They're each doing their own sort of session, and we have sort of a master playlist. So that'll be like a big push. But there's a lot of like personal things going on in June. I'm going to be down in California with my family. My siblings will be visiting. My nephews will be visiting. My boyfriend will be visiting down there. My friend Allison will be visiting, and then we'll be road tripping back.
Wow.
So like there's lots of motion. So I really don't know what the writing and reading will hold other than like being shoved in the crevices of time. Yeah.
That sounds exciting though. What a great, I love, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to Orcas Island for a few days in June, but that's just like a, you know, like an unwind because school will be done at that point. And so just like a nice,
present to yourself.
But that's it. I'm not, I shouldn't say that's it. I'm just saying it's not a road trip from California, which is always, I love road trips.
Yeah. My 20-year-old car.
Are you from California originally?
Huh?
Are you from California originally? Or are you from Oregon and then?
Okay. Nope, from California. Like so many untold others.
Me.
Really?
Me.
Oh, I didn't know
San
that.
Jose.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I went to Santa Clara for college.
Girl.
I'm originally from San Luis Obispo.
Oh.
So that's where I'll be going.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. I lived in Santa Clara, so I know that area quite well.
Very cool. Funny.
Yeah, that's so funny. Not very far.
Yeah. Yeah, the hills around there. I graduated college and then did a year with AmeriCorps doing a nonprofit program. And I remember exploring around like I hadn't when I was in school because I was just focused on campus. And so I remember like, oh, there's a reservoir here. Oh, there's a trail by the highway. Oh, there's like hills. And like, wow. Oh, so yeah, it's a great area. I don't know that anyone can afford to live there anymore, but it was nice, 25 years ago. So
yeah, I have a couple of friends who've been able to stay there, but their family's from there and they have family houses that they've been able, or they're married, so they have the combined incomes that's helped them.
Yeah,
it's very difficult. So expensive.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm very happy where I'm at now. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I gotta make it up there. The first time I heard about Bellingham was because someone at Santa Clara was from there. So I was like, oh, sounds like a fun place. Like, yeah. What am I like,
It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city. Mm-hmm. And it's so close to the border. Just hop over to Canada.
Yeah, although that's a much bigger trip. I think like 6 hours is already like, okay, I could do that in a weekend, but the Canada, I feel like, has to be a much bigger planning undertaking. But
yeah, because you want to spend more time up there.
Yeah.
And understandable. Yeah. We'll plan something. Maybe we could do halfway, or maybe you come up to Bellingham.
Yeah. I will take any excuse.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. And I'd like to remind everybody that I've got Margaret's information in the description box, including the announcement video for May of the Moderns. There is still time. There's still time. Yeah, there's still time. Some people are really quick. They can read books really fast. So if you're already reading a book from 1901, to 1945, you've already participated.
Yes. Crossover, double dip.
Thank you so much.
All allowed. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah. This was wonderful. I'm glad you said, hey, let's do this. Because I was like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I like being on your channel. This is fun. I'm glad you overcame the tech troubles and were able to figure something out. So yeah.
I know. I'm more used to it now.
Yeah. And hello to Amy's audience. Lovely, lovely to meet you. And hopefully I'll see you around.
Yes. Go join. Go subscribe. Go subscribe now. Subtle. I'm very subtle.
Yes. We need the subtle people. You're very helpful.
We do. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you all later.
Yep. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Maybe.